My name is Zipporah Mwangi, and I'm excited to have you on board. On this channel, we have conversations about lifestyle, education, and kingdom living. And our theme verse is Proverbs 23, verse 23, that talks about buy truth and do not sell it, also wisdom, knowledge, and instruction. So, welcome to my channel. On this particular series, we are just looking at lifestyle, and so I just take you along on some random days and different things that I did at different times. And I'm simply making a digital diary of my transitional season, and I thought, it would be great if I just took you along. So on this particular day, I just was observing this gentleman just doing his job, and as you can see, he has his truck and he's doing all this by himself. And I think I found it was quite impressive, just imagining the fact that when you have the right tools, you can be very efficient in what you're doing. And I was just looking at it and I thought to myself, it took him just a very few minutes to be able to load this because there are some remains of a construction that was taking place in at my neighbor's place. And so for me, it was just interesting to watch him, and it kind of just reminds me of how the ants are diligent in their labor, and how it is that we also need to work. The Bible does remind us that if we don't work, we should not eat. And so it's a good reminder, just to think about work, and also what is our perspective towards work. And so looking at this gentleman just doing his job, going about his, this is probably something that he does quite often, and he's pretty efficient at it, and just challenging me to also get to the place where I'm also efficient in the things that I do. And so it was great to just observe someone else. And the Bible also does remind us that we do indeed have a crowd of witnesses. Now, welcome once again. And so today I am preparing, I just want to do banana bread, and I was taking this because I was going to have an afternoon of just some games and hang out with my colleagues, my schoolmates, my Kenyan schoolmates, and I figured, let me just prepare some banana bread and take that along with me. And so on this particular day, I decided I was going to use a recipe. So I was doing a combo of a recipe I'd gotten from a friend, plus something else that I had seen on another YouTube channel. So I figured, let me try it out. And so I started off by simply beating 3 eggs and then 3 very, very ripe bananas. And I would suggest that if you're going to do these very ripe bananas, that it gets very sweet, and so it would be wise that you don't put in sugar. I made the mistake of adding in sugar because, the recipe that I was using had some sugar, but I think it's actually quite unnecessary. So if you are the kind of person that doesn't like very sugary stuff, you just need to make good use of your overly ripe banana. So it's actually a very easy recipe, and for me, it helps me. I was just thinking about even the issue, like for example, of baking, and that I have learned a lot more about baking while here in Europe, as opposed to back home, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't grow up with an oven, and so baking was not the thing that I would easily think about. And I realized that it's interesting about how our environment affects how we think about certain things and what we find easy. And so it made me realize that there are things that are so easy to make, but for me they always felt very complicated. So baking was one of those things that for me was something I watched. And honestly, until I came here, I hadn't tried my hand at baking anything. But banana bread is actually pretty easy because you just need to beat so majorly what you can do is that you can do your solids separately and then your liquids separately. That makes it easy for you to do the mixing, and it helps you to simply be able, like for example, the banana, you want to smooth it up as much as possible, so you can use a fork. But again, if you have if you have a machine to help you, then you might as well use that. And so I mix the liquids, I put them separately, and then I was mixing my dry stuff, which is simply wheat flour. And by the way, in case you want gluten-free banana bread, you can still do the same, but you'd have to be careful with your quantities. Will definitely have to change. And you can do this with oats. I've tried this with oats before, and so when I was using oats, I still had to use a little bit of flour, but then yeah, it was majorly oat flour. But then again, you can also use rice flour in case you'd want to do that as well, in case you really just want it to be gluten free. So you might want to mix, maybe rice flour and oats. I've never tried the combo, so I can't quite tell you how that's going to taste. I really don't know, but I mean, yeah, that's the point of, you try. If it works, well and good. If it doesn't, I mean, now you know one way not to do something. So yeah, so there I was just simply put in my flour, and then I will eventually mix it with the baking powder. And yeah, and it's pretty easy, and you mix it with salt as well if you want to add in a little bit of salt. And it's not really about perfection. I think that's, if there's anything that I am learning really about this life, is to get to the place where I ask myself, what am I learning? Like, what's really my main goal? And it's really to make progress, because the truth of the matter is, even having been on YouTube, just creating content, I am not perfect. In fact, I keep seeing so many mistakes in the videos that I do. But one of the things that I have taught myself is that I won't give up. And the thing is to keep doing it until I get it right. And then also it's that to make sure that I'm making progress every other day. And so that this way, I don't feel so bad. And it's really to look at the video and to realize that to see that I've made progress. Maybe I learned how to cut out something today, and that's progress. Maybe I learned how to use different filters. Maybe I learned how to use different stickers. Maybe I learned how to do overlays. Maybe I've learned today how to do thumbnails. Maybe I've learned how to do something else. And so for me, I really just take this opportunity to just encourage you that whatever it is you've been thinking you need to do, please go for it and do it. I mean, you will never really know just how good you can be at something unless you really try. And so this is my encouragement to you. And I want to remind you one thing, that the reason, even as I am posting this particular video, as I prepare this banana bread, it didn't turn out perfectly, because I'm not yet there. I mean, I've just recently started baking and got some training on this, and so I am learning and I am making adjustments here and there, and sometimes I make mistakes. But what I remind myself is that to make note of where I made the mistake, and so I don't have to do that. I don't have to make that mistake next time. But give yourself grace. That's what I'm going to tell you. Give yourself grace and start with what you have, because the truth of the matter is, I don't have the best quality camera. I don't have all the equipment that I need. But if you keep telling yourself you don't have something, you will never start. And if you don't start, and whatever God wants you to do in your life that influences other people's lives, then that means at the end of the day, we are going to have a challenge. And so, or just looking at the particular, so what I also like to do with this banana bread is I prefer to use, so if you can use plain yogurt, Greek yogurt, or you could use kefir. And so with kefir, it's simply, or you can even use sour cream. And all these are aimed at simply making sure that your bread is as moist as possible. So watch out for the ratios as well, because I think if your mixture is too liquid, you need to put in a little more flour, so that then it's you work on the consistency as well. And so for me with kefir, you use it for various ways. This is what we actually call back at home maziwa mala. Yeah, and so it's simply sour milk, and it really works well. So I use this kefir for other things as well. So I basically don't drink it, but I mostly prefer to use it for like either baking or to use it as part of my skincare routine. Now I also use the cooking oil that you just I showed you, and so so you could replace cooking oil here with butter. So I mean, these things are not cast in stone, so you can get creative with them. And so that's one of the things that for me I really like to do, just adventure. I have this thing where you give me a recipe, but I still want to tweak it a little bit. Yeah, just just putting my personality into the thing. And so I just learning to extend grace to yourself, do what it is that you can do, and even if you make mistakes, give yourself some grace, because I mean there's so much for us to learn. And one day you're going to perfect that skill, but you have to keep doing it. You have to keep showing up, you have to keep doing it, and then you try out different things, and then whichever one of them works, then you keep working on that. But let's not give up. Start with what you have, start with where you are. In fact, I'm really encouraged by very many people, by very many videos that I see, especially on TikTok, and people just showcasing where they started out in life. And it's really encouraging to see, because I mean, sometimes we don't see where people have come from, and we have a tendency to imagine that they woke up one day and they got all this money, or they got all this wealth, or they got this education, or they have all this influence, but they worked for it. They did something about it. So I really just want to encourage you and just challenge myself as well, not to give up. Keep at it. That you will definitely make mistakes, but you will learn how not to do stuff, and then you will also learn how to do stuff, and give yourself grace. And also find out from other people how best to do something, and listen into feedback, find out, get feedback from other people. So I'm going to be honest, this particular banana bread turned out to be very, very, very sweet. So the other thing I also want to mention is about what I'm using to bake. So I bought these particular pots. They are Tescoma pots. And what I really like about them is that I can cook with them, but I can also bake with them. So for me, it was a worthwhile investment. They were quite expensive when I started out, but I felt for me, I would rather invest in some quality items, and I've used them for 4 years. And giving them away to a friend of mine because they're quite helpful. So in this particular case, I don't have to worry about getting baking trays. I can simply use that pot, and so just putting in some flour in it. And the best bit about this particular pot is that they are non-stick. So when you put in your mixture, and you're going to see at the very end, once this bread is ready, is that it comes off very easily. And so it's great. That's what I really love about these pots. And so as we continue just chatting, is for me to remind you to do something. Don't just sit and do nothing. I mean, find a hobby, start whatever it is. Maybe you've been challenging yourself to read more books. Just start with one. Maybe you've been challenging yourself that you need to work on weight loss. Just start with one day at a time. Imagine it's possible. All things really are possible to them that believe, and it's really about faith and trusting God to give you wisdom, to give you counsel. I also added in some raisins. They're quite unnecessary, by the way, and it's simply because I didn't have nuts, but I could have done this with like pumpkin seeds, and I would have done this also with peanuts, just to just make it a little bit more attractive. The other thing I was also preparing for my friends were boiled eggs. And then so as I did that first, and then my banana bread was ready. So as you can see, is that the banana bread comes off very easily. And so then eventually I headed out of the house, enjoying just looking at nature, and heading out and thinking about the goodness of God. And it's really just amazing to just also use the tram also along the Danube River. and just look at the different bridges that we have that you can walk across. I mean, I like the fact that really Hungary has done a lot to just maintain, like their river. Honestly, it is impressive. It is really impressive. They've really worked on the Danube river banks, and it's, you can see it, you can enjoy the tram ride along the river. You can also go on a boat cruise, and it's quite reasonable. In case you have purchased your monthly ticket, you can use it to go for the boat ride. And so I arrived here at Margaret Island. It's a small island, and people here enjoy fountains, and I was waiting for my friends and just taking time to simply record as I wait for them this particular video. So thank you very much for joining me. God bless you. Bye.